Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The apple. More than a fruit, it's a symbol of American agriculture and a pillar of rural economies. For decades, U.S. orchards have supplied apples worldwide, building communities and livelihoods. But in autumn 2025, the industry faces a crisis, squeezed between two dramatic trade decisions from its closest neighbors. To the north, Canada has abruptly blocked all U.S. apple imports, citing unfair trade practices and a need to protect its growers. This sudden ban severs a vital economic artery, leaving American orchards with a surplus and nowhere to sell. Meanwhile, to the south, Mexico has signed a landmark $12 billion trade pact with the U.S. apple industry. This deal promises a long-term partnership and a new market for American apples, offering hope amid uncertainty. The simultaneous Canadian ban and Mexican pact have created both crisis and opportunity, forcing the U.S. apple sector to adapt fast. These events are not isolated, they reflect a broader shift in global trade, shaped by years of tariffs and rising protectionism. The American apple industry now stands at a crossroads, navigating international politics and economic upheaval. This story explores the roots, impacts, and uncertain future of America's apple growers. Apples arrived in North America with European settlers, and from those seeds a powerhouse industry grew. By the 20th century, states like Washington and New York were synonymous with iconic apple varieties and innovation. The North American Free Trade Agreement and its successor created a seamless market, with Canada as the top export destination for U.S. apples. This partnership provided Canadians with variety and Americans with steady revenue, a foundation for the industry. But the stability began to erode in the late 2010s, as U.S. tariffs on goods like steel triggered retaliatory measures and frayed trust. Canadian industries felt squeezed and political pressure to push back mounted. The era of smooth trade gave way to volatility and confrontation. Aggressive U.S. tariff threats in 2025, even if not aimed at agriculture, reinforced America's image as an unpredictable partner. In this tense climate, Canada's government, led by Mark Carney, took a stand. The apple, once a symbol of wholesome trade, became collateral in a much larger economic conflict. The seeds of today's crisis were sown years ago. Canada's September 2025 ban on U.S. apple imports was the result of years of trade disputes and growing economic anxiety. The government argued it was protecting Canadian farmers from what it called predatory U.S. practices and artificially low prices. The ban is total and indefinite, cutting off a $300 million annual trade channel overnight. Inspired by recent steel tariff battles, the timing was devastating, just as the U.S. apple harvest began. Growers in northern states suddenly faced a massive surplus, with warehouses overflowing and fruit at risk of rotting. The abruptness left no time to adapt or find new buyers. Politically, the move is seen as direct retaliation for the broader U.S. trade agenda. By targeting apples, Canada sent a clear message: the era of one-sided trade pressure is over. The apple is now a pawn in a high-stakes geopolitical game. For American farmers, the consequences are immediate and severe. The once stable border has become a flashpoint for economic conflict. The fallout is just beginning. As Canada closed its doors, Mexico opened theirs wide. In a historic move, Mexico and major food distributors signed a $12 billion multi-year pact with the U.S. apple industry. This isn't just a purchase, it's a strategic partnership including investments in logistics, storage, and marketing. The deal guarantees a steady flow of U.S. apples to Mexico for 5 years, offering a lifeline to American growers. Mexico frames the pact as a win-win: stable food supply for them, a crucial new market for the U.S. politically. It's a diplomatic masterstroke, positioning Mexico as a reliable partner and strengthening ties with Washington. The contrast with Canada's approach is stark: cooperation over confrontation. For U.S. growers, the pact is a rescue package, but it requires a major logistical pivot south. Supply chains must be reconfigured, and adaptation is essential for survival. The industry faces challenges, but the Mexican deal offers a path forward. The future of American apples may now depend on the southern border. The trade upheaval has sparked a political firestorm in Washington. The Canadian ban is seen as a hostile act, prompting threats of retaliation and escalating rhetoric on both sides. Lawmakers from apple states are demanding federal aid, but are split between confrontation and diplomacy. The crisis exposes the vulnerability of American farmers to global trade shocks, and becomes a flashpoint in debates over U.S. trade policy. The Mexican pact adds complexity, hailed as a diplomatic win by some, dismissed as luck by critics. The administration now praises Mexico as a savior, even as it clashes with them on other issues. The situation reignites the debate over free trade versus protectionism, with the apple as a symbol of the stakes. The crisis is more than economic, it's ideological, pitting globalism against nationalism. The American apple is now at the heart of a fundamental political clash. The Canadian ban's economic impact was immediate. Warehouses in apple states overflowed, prices crashed, and growers faced ruin. Many must now choose between selling at a loss or letting crops rot. The shock ripples through the supply chain, hurting packers, distributors, and transporters. The Mexican deal, while promising, isn't an instant fix. Rerouting apples south requires new logistics, packaging, and marketing strategies. Mexican consumers have different preferences, and the transition will take time and investment. Rural economies built around apples are suffering. When farmers lose money, local businesses feel the pain. Uncertainty halts investment and threatens the vitality of entire communities. For consumers, a temporary glut may mean lower prices, but if growers go under, future supply and variety could shrink. The crisis reveals how fragile and interconnected the food system is. A shock at the border can upend lives and economies far beyond the orchard. The stakes are higher than a single harvest. Behind the numbers are real families facing existential threats. Generational orchards are at risk, and the stress is immense. Seasonal migrant workers, vital to the harvest, now face job losses and uncertainty. The disruption threatens the social fabric of rural communities, where apples are part of local identity and heritage. Many farmers feel abandoned by policymakers, fueling resentment and distrust. The crisis is more than economic, it's emotional, cultural, and deeply personal. The disconnect between political decisions and rural realities is growing. The long-term social consequences will echo long after the trade headlines fade. Experts see the apple crisis as a warning for the future of global trade. Dr. Amelia Thorne calls Canada's ban a predictable result of years of U.S. tariff threats, retaliatory protectionism in action. Dan Ives notes that whether it's apples or iPhones, unpredictable trade policy creates chaos for supply chains. The Mexican Pact is a smart pivot, but it signals a new era where traditional markets can't be relied upon. Dr. Marcus Vance warns that orchards can't simply pause production. Lost markets may force growers to pull out trees, shrinking the industry for good. The shift south could reduce biodiversity and make the industry more vulnerable to future shocks. Political analyst Maria Elena Navarro sees Mexico's move as shrewd diplomacy, turning crisis into opportunity and gaining leverage in Washington. Canada, meanwhile, risks isolation and a deeper rift with its largest trading partner. The apple crisis is a lesson in 21st century diplomacy, where trade, agriculture, and politics are inseparable. The industry's future depends on adaptability and smarter policy. The apple is now a symbol of the new, unpredictable global order. The stakes go far beyond fruit. The world is watching. The 2025 apple crisis is a stark lesson in how global politics can upend everyday life. The Canadian ban and Mexican Pact have redrawn the industry's map, bringing both hardship and hope. Farmers and communities now face an uncertain future shaped by decisions far from their fields. The crisis exposes the fragility of modern food systems and the risks of over-reliance on cross-border trade. Supporting growers through this transition is urgent, but so is rethinking the balance between self-sufficiency and global cooperation. The apple's story warns against protectionist cycles that harm everyone. As consumers and citizens, we all have a stake in the outcome. The fate of the American apple is being decided now, and it matters to us all.